Johannes, thank you for coming. Welcome to Scotland, albeit virtually.
Great to be here, yeah.
So I want to quickly break down the chat today so you know what to expect. We're going to start with a short intro. I'm going to tell you a little bit of, give you a little bit of context of where we are. Then Johannes will tell his story a little bit to give you kind of an idea of how he started from the bottom, I would say. And then we'll get into the main interview where we'll talk about remote work. And we wanted to really be practical about it today. So we'll definitely give you practical advice of what to do in order to make your business remote and maybe get on the road as quickly as possible. We'll talk a little bit about the Nomad Cruise. As you know from the descriptions of the event, it's a very, very fun event that I had a pleasure to be on. So yeah, that's something fun to talk about. And then we'll talk about building a community, because Startup Grind and the Nomad Cruise community, or the digital nomad network that Johannes built, is very similar in values to Startup Grind. So I think we can really relate to each other here. So yeah, let's get to it. Because Johannes usually is kind of shy, doesn't want to tell about his achievements, I'm going to give you a quick intro. If you didn't read the intro, Johannes started as a virtual assistant over 15 years ago in South Africa, traveled to over 80 countries, met thousands of people, entrepreneurs, startup owners, built communities, including the Digital Nomad Network on Facebook, which is over 50,000 people now. He's been running several successful remote businesses for those 15 years. 10 successful Nomad Cruises, each one bigger, I believe, starting from 100 people to now, I think the recent one was about 490 people, something like that. Featured in the New York Times, Decide, and a few other big names in terms of magazines all over the world, and all around amazing guy. Great to be around, good friend of mine. So I'm really happy to have him here and really honored to be interviewing him. So again, welcome, Johannes.
Yeah, great to be here. Good to see you again like this. And after 10 years when we met, so really nice, really, yeah, happy to share as much as possible tonight with you guys.
Absolutely. So just to quickly give you an idea why we kind of will be having a little bit of a banter here. As I said, we met 10 years ago for the first time, and then each one of us had different journeys in terms of entrepreneurial world, but now we meet again. He's in Scotland virtually, but hopefully we'll see him out and about anyways. So let's get to it. First of all, just wanted to ask the basic background so people kind of can learn a little bit about how you started the remote work journey, which is, like your first job as a virtual assistant, what I mentioned, or even before that. So you can give us kind of feel what's to come.
Yeah, so basically I'm originally from Germany, but I was living in South Africa, and it was very, very hard for me to do any work there. So that was in 2008, but I had a fiancé there and wanted to live there, but it was just really very, very difficult for me to find a well-paying job where I can, go travel back to Germany whenever I want and visit my friends there. So I was looking for different options, and I was first working like in a travel agency and stuff, but that wasn't paying well. And then I came across this book, The 4-Hour Workweek, from Tim Ferriss, who had just basically, published that book. And it was talking about, building online businesses. And one thing that he mentioned there is that people who are entrepreneurs should hire themselves a virtual assistant. And I saw that as a great opportunity for me, because I had zero clue about anything. I didn't even know how to make a website, but I thought, I can be a virtual assistant because I can just write a bit and figure things out. And yeah, that's how I basically got started. I just posted my email address in a forum in uh, in in a forum about this book, and I got a lot of requests because they all thought I'm this cheap assistant doing cheap work for everyone, and I was actually working, yeah, for €8 an hour at that time. And but I got paid to learn, and I learned AdWords, I learned paid marketing, I learned how to make my first websites and all these things, and I got paid for this. So I didn't really see this as I'm selling my service very cheap. I saw this as a part of learning and becoming ready to start my own business and stuff, and that really helped me. Yeah, so that was how I got started.
So that's definitely a relatable story. And how when you started this, was it something completely, like, for you at least, this way of working online and being able to get paid without actually going to an office or job? Was it something different for you?
Yeah, I mean, basically the thing was that even though I only got €8, I was still making double of what I was making at the job where I had to go. So I thought, this is fun. I can just work actually only half the time, and I can learn the other half of my time and just read blogs or do whatever. So yeah, I mean, I was struggling a little bit with discipline and stuff, and it did feel a little bit lonely. And I think that's still like a huge problem for any nomads, when you're working by yourself. But then you need to go out and make some friends in other ways or go to co-working spaces. So
Well,
at that time, that wasn't really there. So I was just like in my room and doing this for 2-3 years in the beginning when I got started. Yeah.
and how long did you stay in South Africa before you did your first jump and you kind of changed location?
Like from when I started to like work remotely by myself, it was about 2 years until I kind of like went on my relationship broke, and then I had even my own business and I had built something actually that was generating me money. So about 2.5 years until I was nomad. But I was able to basically work location independent, and I made like, I don't know, like €1,000 or something within 2 months by just being a virtual assistant and just getting paid to learn.
Okay, well, that's a really good start. I don't think it's an easy thing to do these days, but we'll get into practical tips so people can try something like this, because a lot of people start from that kind of like assisting and just kind of doing odd jobs, no?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you started, it was kind of, you were motivated by the fact that you wanted to be in South Africa with your fiance. That was your motivation, or is there something else behind it?
No. The reason why I started this was I wanted to actually work in tourism, which is the reason why I later on started the Nomad Cruise, because I wanted to study tourism. Like I like travel and these things. But I wanted to start a tour operator business, but I just didn't see that this would be something good to do, because every day I drove to work, I saw a different bus with like no people in it. So I saw there was a huge competition between the tour operators, and I didn't have the knowledge to like make this work, right? So yeah, so I decided, if I just work virtually, I can go back to Germany whenever I want to. And if you have a job in South Africa, and it makes me less dependent on living in South Africa, that was my main motivation. And then, yeah, basically that helped me to get this started. Yeah.
Did the motivation change now compared to that, those 15 years ago? Is something else motivating you now?
Yeah, I mean, now for me, for example, now my main motivation is that I was working in this nomad field for a really long time. I see that there's a lot of things that can actually be done better. And I discovered a lot of mistakes, and I helped myself to do it. And now I want to help other people to actually have a better time than I did when I was traveling alone as a nomad. So my motivation is now more helping other people and building something that makes sense in that way. But in the beginning, like, you just need to help yourself to make some things work. But basically, a lot of times I was just really like always motivated by fixing my own problems.
Okay.
So that is also about entrepreneurship, right? You run into a problem, you fix it for yourself, then you see that this can work for other people as well. And if you're in some lifestyle or something where you're just starting out, like where nobody else is doing this, then you run into a lot of problems, right? So the cruise was a result of fixing my problem of traveling all the time by myself and finding it hard to meet other people. And I wrote the ebook that would inspire other people to travel, to get them started. I built communities just to meet more people and make it easier for people to connect, because that's where I saw the biggest problem. Basically the nomad life is really amazing, but one huge problem is just that whenever you go to a place, you need to start a new network, you need to do these things. And I just wanted to make this easier, because I wanted to meet more people who are working and traveling as well. And so I was basically, I'm just fixing my own problems all the time. My first problem was that I couldn't go to Germany and I was missing my friends, right? So then I wanted to build a business that I don't need to work much. I built an e-commerce business that was running by itself and actually made this 4-hour work week happen. Then I wasn't passionate about it. I wanted to meet more people who are doing the same. So always fixing my problems and making them work. And sometimes when you fix your problems, you can actually charge for this.
So it wasn't really about the traveling or that much, or like the digital nomad lifestyle itself, like the main point. It was fixing that problem, like getting to what you want. That freedom and the income would allow you to do what you really wanted to do, not just the lifestyle itself, right?
Well, I like the lifestyle. I just couldn't understand why nobody else is doing this, because I had a business that was running nicely and I was traveling the world. And I just didn't get, why is there nobody else who's doing this? Like in the first year, I met 5 people who were also like traveling. And yes, so I was very lucky in that position that I had a business that I wasn't required to do a lot of work. Like it was like, 5-6 hours a week, right? So I had a lot of free time. I could run into the risk that I would not like at that time when you were traveling. Like, we met at that time when I was running this business. We met in Rio de Janeiro. So in Rio there was internet, but in many other places there wasn't much internet, and so it was difficult. Sometimes I would just run into the risk that I can't talk to any clients, or like I was doing some client work at the same time. Now these days this is super easy. You have great internet everywhere. But I just couldn't understand why nobody else was doing this, because I thought everyone, the whole world, read the 4-hour work week and was doing what was written in this book, but they were not.
Yes, absolutely agree. And to me, when I first met you, it was like a brand new idea that I had no idea like this exists. Which also I want to make sure, like, do a little bit of housekeeping here and say, guys, if you want to ask questions, we have Slido, so you can ask Johannes questions, and if you add your name, we'll make sure to bring you onto the stage, and you'll ask it yourself, whether it's like practical questions or any other questions, you can ask them. That will be closer to the end. We'll make sure we have like a Q&A session. Also, we have some nomad cruisers and some digital nomads in the audience. There can be a lot of mingling there in the chat. We'll bring a couple of them to the stage at the end as well, so they will share their experience and kind of maybe relate to what Johannes is saying. It's a small world after all. So we'll talk about it. We'll share those experiences. What I wanted to make sure today is that you get to see different perspectives and practical advice. So my next question to Johannes would be, because if you go on Instagram you'll see a lot of people who are posting pictures on, on islands, tropical islands, palm trees, Lamborghinis, and all the crazy, amazing lifestyle, selling the dream. And
Mhm.
because of that, this lifestyle of the digital nomad lifestyle has either sometimes bad reputation or can turn people off because they don't think it's possible. So what I would like to make sure today we touch on the good and the bad of the industry. And yeah, what could you say about like your perspective on that topic?
So, I mean, I can understand why people post these things and their laptop and stuff, because in the beginning, when you start out, you're super excited about this. So you just want to tell all your friends, and, you've been dreaming of this the whole time. So you take your laptop, you bring it to the beach, and you show, like, this is amazing. That's how I started as well,
I
right?
did that too. I
Um,
did that too.
yeah. So everyone just wants to do this. The reality is, it sucks to work like close to the beach. Usually you have all this sunshine, and you want to have some nice air condition to be a bit more productive. But basically these pictures, they kind of show that this is possible, like that you can do this. The reality is, in order to be productive, I would not choose these environments. And of course, other people use this as a strategy to sell the dream. The reality is that this is not a dream. It's like absolute possible. And I know hundreds of people who are doing this, but also it's not a dream in that sense that it's as amazing as everyone thinks, right? You still need to work. You will get used to the fact that you're going to all these amazing places very, very quickly. And a huge problem in this nomad life is actually that you make hundreds of friends around the world, but you're losing like these really deep connections, these belongings and stuff. So in general, one thing that I would like people to know is that this is what is important in a way, is to have a home base, to have a place where you feel like this is my home, this is a place that I like. And then when it gets winter, you just go for 4 months and you go to Bali, you go to South Africa, or wherever you can go now in this Corona times, and experience this. But it's important to have both. It's because um, if you are just bouncing around the world, it will get lonely, and you make hundreds of friends. And in the beginning, it feels super exciting, and the first year will be awesome. But just be prepared that after a while, this will change a little bit. And then it's important that you kind of have some base where you can come back and do this, or you have a good base of friends around the world who are doing the same, and that you also meet again, where you have this feeling. But yeah, so, but in general, I think that the lifestyle is amazing. It gives you amazing opportunities, but you need to learn to master this. You need to learn to be disciplined. You need to learn how to run your office like in different time zones and whatsoever. So in general, what I always would suggest is that first make some income, uh, like build up some income that you're like really feel comfortable, like now I can take the step and I can try this out. But don't just like, start to travel and start to build this at the same time. You'll absolutely fail. What other people do as well, like actually just yesterday I met one girl. She was living in India. We also have some people here from India. And yeah, that girl was living in India, in Goa on the beach. And she was building up her remote business there. But it's easy when you're in a location where you do not need to spend so much money, like living in London, right? And then you can build it up, and you have time to build the skills. That was also something that really helped me in South Africa, where I did not need as much money as I would need if I would be living in Munich or something to build this up. But it's important when you're building up the skills, the business, that you are in one place.
And that's a perfect lead to my next question, which was if a person wanted to turn their business remote, what would be like the first few things, like first three things they would need to get sorted before that, they would start traveling?
Yeah, so again, like I think if you're basically, you can kind of go remote with almost any profession, like anyone who has an office job with a bit creativity and maybe talking to your boss, you can go remote, right? You can do this. Um, like it depends, of course, a bit what you're doing, but like it showed us now with the corona, during the corona, how many people actually able to work from home. And if they're able to work from home, they can probably work from almost anywhere in the world. Maybe sometimes they need to return to their base, but oftentimes they're quite flexible depending on what the boss thinks and what is the team collaboration, how these things are being done. But I think the most important is to really learn the tools, master the tools, have a consistent income. And, I wouldn't tell my clients like, no, I'm going to go travel all around the world and I will still continue my work. I would just kind of get them used to it slowly and just say like, hey, yeah, I'm going on vacation, but I will do a little bit of work in case you're switching the time zone and you need to do something like this. Maybe don't even tell them necessarily where you are. Sometimes people get very jealous when you work with them and you're saying you're on the beach in the Caribbean or wherever. So sometimes they don't even want to know where you are, right? Even though you are super excited about it, it doesn't, like, if it doesn't add any value to the conversation or to your relationship with your client, it's not, you're not a digital nomad. You're an SEO, you're a
Yeah.
marketer, whatever.
Don't
Digital
post
nomad,
a picture on Instagram. Don't post a picture on
you
Instagram
can
from the
do it,
beach.
but you can do it, but it doesn't really get you more clients, right? So that is your personal life being a digital nomad. Your work life is more something where you just want to be professional.
Okay. Well, speaking of professions, now I know a lot of people when they consider doing that, they see, the programmers, the graphic designers, the people who generally are creatives. They think that's mostly who can do this. Now, can you tell us about the professions that maybe seem more traditional? I know we have lawyers on the call, so as a matter of fact, I think I met one digital nomad who is a law professional, or any other professions that maybe people think of as traditional, but you experience that they are possible to be transferred into the location independent business.
So what I think is really important is that when you think about a good way to try to make your business or whatsoever remotely, it's, you want to make things always simple, because traveling is complicated, right? You need to make so many decisions. So whatever business you're building, you want to make it very, very simple. And if you're a lawyer and you're doing all types of law, like usually everyone is then even lawyers are already specialized on one topic. And oftentimes there are some topics where you can specialize on, that you can basically just do that law topic consulting online. Um, and you can basically just specialize on one topic that you can do the consulting from anywhere in the world. Versus just being a lawyer in the town, you can say, I do consulting on like now corona, corruption, people not paying their bills, something that people Google, and then you can be there. So of course you need to find some ways to get clients. You can do this with YouTube or whatsoever, but you can also probably now these days even just be based as a lawyer and even do your consulting via Zoom, right? Like, why do you actually need to be on location? I don't really know. And then this kind of applies to almost every industry where you don't need to see people on location. That oftentimes there are some certain parts in your type of work that you're doing where if you turn this into a gig, the gig economy, if you turn this into like just focusing on one small part of this, you will have it much easier. You can really do like a great service doing one type of your business, and then sell this to anywhere in the world.
Would you tell us about a few other professions that you encountered that you could consider traditional and now they are kind of like digital nomads?
I need to think a little bit about, I mean, I know a lot of there's like a lot of coaching that can be done, coaching, translation, transcriptions. There, it really depends, like software business, you can do customer support, like any type of customer support work can be done online. You can then offer customer support to a lot of other businesses who need customer support, right? So that it would be like an easy way to build up a company. I know people who are doing this. There are video production is maybe hard, but video editing, right? So it really depends. Like, I mean, I think a good way to look at it, or like even sales, right? You can do sales calls, like all the sales, all your distribution, you can also do online. So in general, what I think is a good way for someone to start, like who doesn't really know, can I do this? It's like to really look at yourself, like, and ask yourself the question, like, what is a skill that I can do really, really well? And oftentimes in your job, you already know what you can do well. Like the other day I was talking to someone and she said, like, I'm really good in sales, right? Like I was selling more things in the gym, like at the reception, than the actual sales team was doing in the gym. And so if you know this already, that you have like a good personality to be selling, yeah, now, I mean, why do you need to sell a gym membership in a gym? You can also contact other companies who are doing sales calls every day and say like, hey, look, I want to do your sales calls. I want to help you selling your product. Then you're not a virtual assistant, but you're actually someone who, depending on what type of product you're selling, you might make a lot of money. And if you're doing really, really well, then you can go to a country and offer this in the States, or in countries that are even paying much higher jobs. If you're doing a great job selling, for example, then you'll get, if you're good at it, you'll get what you're worth. So think about it, like what is something that you can do really, really well, and also think about what is the focus where I can go, where I can make my job a little bit easier, and maybe later on bring in a small team that can help me to do this job. It's really like, because also it's good to do something, that you can already do. Like entrepreneurship is really, really hard, but at the end of the day, it starts with one skill, and then you add another skill and another skill. And the more skills you have, the more things you can do. Another thing you can do is you can have a lot of money and just start a business and throw money at people who are already really, really good. But that are basically the two ways to do it.
That's true. That's true.
When we start out, yeah, we don't have too much money to spend, so we need to start with one skill. Yeah,
I agree. And as far as I'm aware, generally people think this is only young and single people's sport. Would you disagree? Would you say that, people with families and people of older age could do this?
Yeah, so I mean, I know people of older age who are doing it very actively, and I also know people, families. I know one family, they have 3 kids. The youngest kid was like 9 years old last time I met them, and at that time she was in over 77 countries already. I think that is a little bit crazy, like to take your family around the world like this, but they seem to like it, right? But I do know like a lot of families, like right now as well, like with young babies and stuff, who are traveling. They just travel a little bit different. They meet more families, right? Like they're doing things, the way how they travel is a little bit different. But basically, yeah. So it's absolutely possible for anyone. You can do homeschooling. There's lots of options around the world to do this. So yes, it's possible. I mean, in general, one thing I think that I wouldn't advise is families to travel when their kids are like between 10 and 18 years, because I do think that's one thing that I realized, that oftentimes it's really important when the kids are young to make friends, and then and make like lasting friendships, and not just kind of take them out and push them around the world. Because from speaking to many expat kids, I know that has been a huge problem for them if they live too many places around the world when they were a bit older.
I noticed that you speak a lot about those connections and building friendships and everything. So that leads me towards the section of the interview when I wanted to talk about building a community, because that seems to be like the main kind of reason why you started Nomad Cruise and your group on Facebook, because it's lonely, as you said, and it seems to be like we are social creatures and we do need that friendship and connection and vibe.
Exactly. So, I mean, belonging is a human need, right? It's very, very important that you belong to something. And when you're a nomad, you belong basically to nothing, right? So, in the beginning, that's no problem because you're fulfilling all your dreams and you're traveling around. And it is really awesome when, in the beginning, when you travel and you go to hostels and you meet people from all over the world. But the longer you do it, the more tiring it will get, right? So the more you will want to stick to familiar people, familiar faces and stuff. And that is, well, that is the reason why then people start to travel much slower because they want to have their connections. And or they are just taking breaks, right? Or you just go to your home base and then you go travel again. But if you do it nonstop and you're moving 1 month to each town, like, you cannot even build this up. And I kind of, I was actually, my dad was a pastor, or is now he's retired. So I knew how to build communities all my life. And this was important for me when I grew up, like, to have a community around it, right? And when I was kind of leaving my home, I know how to build these things, how to, and what are the values and what is like the nice benefits of it. So that was not really hard for me to start a Nomad Cruise, because I was not too scared to put 70 people together and see how this works when they like, experiment with these things a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So since you started the community of, like, let's start with the group before we move on to the Nomad Cruise. Let's talk about the Facebook group. I remember your first group on Facebook was about 1,500 people when we met. Now you have the Global Digital Nomad Network, which I encourage to join. You'll find a lot of resources there, and it's over 50,000 people recently just crossed. So let's talk about what you learned when you built that group and you also built the community for the Nomad Cruise. So number one, like, what would you recommend to someone, like the advice you would give someone who's like wants to start a community? I'm one of those people. I definitely want to build my own. So what would you recommend me or others that want to do it?
So a good thing to do is, like, first you can think about whether that community that you want to have already exists or not, because there's no reason to build it if it already exists, right? And there's no reason now to start another nomad group on Facebook. But maybe there's a reason, like, there's now a possibility to start a digital nomad group for Glasgow, right? Like, connect with everyone else who wants to travel, who wants to do this, who wants to live this lifestyle as well, right? There's probably no group like this right now. So it's a good way to start it, right? And then what you do is you really value your first members, right? So you basically throw up a meetup. My first meetup, one person showed up, and that's how I built it, right? Like, from having one person who came to my meetup. And you need to build these connections, and you need to not, like, say at the second meetup, like, now it's going to be 15 euros for everyone who's going to join my meetup. But you need to, exactly how a startup grind does it as well, give first, right? You need to give first, and give more than you take, and just help others, and then everything, you will get everything back at the end of the day. So that's what I did. I just started communities where I wanted to have them. And I started a community in Tarifa, which was kind of my first home base after I was traveling for 4 years. And I just invited people, like, I had already a bit bigger following. And I just said, like, guys, just come to Tarifa. We're going to hang out here. I'll show you, what this is. We're going to do some co-working. And I really liked Tarifa, but it was just kite-surfer, so I wanted to have a bit more entrepreneur feel there. I just invited people, and the second time I started to charge a bit for it. But there's huge opportunities now, I would think, in just getting those people together in your town who are digital nomads as well, right? That can be huge because some people are gonna travel, like more and more people want to do this. So now if you say like, guys, let's go to Bali, or now I'm gonna organize co-working in Spain and everyone from Glasgow wants to come, it's gonna be a success, right? It's gonna be a success for sure if you just take the steps slowly and build up this community and you're there, and then you organize the first trip, and then the second trip you can put the little markup on top, and there'll be like probably 500 people who can do this in the future, and they're all gonna go. You can even organize a cruise for nomads from Glasgow. I don't know, but
No, it is possible.
but this lifestyle, like these opportunities of remote work, now it's huge after the coronavirus, and people don't want to do this alone. So you need to find other people in your city who are going to do this as well. So that is one example for a community that doesn't exist yet, that people can still build, but build something that is not there, then connect to the people, then ask questions, keep it engaged. Don't give up like after 1 week if people are not doing it. Like in the beginning, I really thought like, what question can I ask them? Like, just like, what backpack do you have? And then what is a good MacBook? You know, what is the best MacBook for nomads? What jobs are you doing? Like, there's so many questions. Just go through the forums, ask them in your forum, get people engaged, and then meet them for drinks, organize a weekly meetup, and it will work.
Well, it's a slow build for sure. And I remember you giving me advice of being patient, which as a matter of fact, I don't know if you can see it. I have a tattoo that says pacienza, which means patience. Because that's one of the biggest ingredients that we need, is to be patient and slowly build up that community. So apart from the patience, is there any other, like the biggest lessons you learned over the years from building that community?
So, I mean, I think like when a community goes bigger and when you give to a lot of people, you will sometimes get disappointed by you say like, hey, I gave this person everything, right? Like now they just ignore me. They just don't, like, now I ask for something small and I don't get it back, right? So don't be disappointed, right? There are people who just take, and there are people who are like giving back, and I think that is an important thing. Like, don't take anything personally. People are kind of sometimes a little bit selfish here and there, and you know, sometimes even if you give a lot, like you're building up this whole community, you need to be prepared that that not everyone gets this, and also like you don't need to give something to someone and then expect that you will get this back in some way. So in the beginning I took this sometimes a little bit personally, and now I know you do things and some things come back and some things don't, and it's absolutely okay. So because I think that will be like a little bit of a disappointment at some point when you grow bigger. I mean, yeah, you need to deal with criticism and stuff. You know, like try to really listen to your community, try to really talk and like actually ask them like in person, like what is something we can do better, and then listen and don't try to think that you know everything yourself. Like now I did a lot of interviews, and this will really help you to understand where they are, where people are. And what else? These are like key things. And then if you don't know something, just Google it and like try to actually do what is written there and not try to think it up yourself.
That's perfect. And guys, if you have more questions, go to Slido. Emma's going to drop the link here. Definitely Johannes will give you some more answers if you're not sure about something in terms of remote work or the community building. And we will move on to the Nomad Cruise, which I had a pleasure to take part in, the cruise #1, which then I spoke for years afterwards because it was such an amazing experience. And as we know right now, it had to come to stop. So let's talk about this. First of all, I wanted to ask you, because I don't know the answer to this question, which is, how did you come up with the idea? Where did that come from, the Nomad Cruise?
So oftentimes you get ideas when you make experiences, right? And actually that idea, like when you make experiences and then you combine them, that brings you to new ideas. So as we were already talking, like I was a nomad, I felt a little bit lonely, right? And every time I went to a new place, I needed to build up my network from scratch. So, but there were also really, really cool times, like in Rio de Janeiro at that time when we met actually. And I was thinking, you know, like why can I not have this great time all the time and have cool people around in different places around the world?
Hell yeah.
And basically, then I saw this ship, like this cheap ship that was going to Brazil, and I thought, you know, I was in Brazil, like sometimes I was very lonely, then I had a great time in there, then I needed to build this up again, and people travel different. If I bring people on this ship and we go together to South America, then I will have cool people in Jericoacoara, in Rio de Janeiro, like in many places, because on the ship we can all meet each other. We have time for networking for 2 weeks. That was my first thought when I saw this ship, right?
So it's like
So
kind
I
of
just thought,
Uber for digital nomads.
yeah, yeah, and I mean, and I wanted to go to Brazil anyway, so I thought like, okay, what would happen if we just go with a lot of digital nomads to Brazil? Then we wouldn't have to be lonely, right? Then we just we can go co-working together. We don't need to travel in the same speed like backpackers do. And yeah, that's how I got the idea. And then later on, I developed the idea to make a huge program, a talent show, and like lots of other things that we added on based on, you know, I wanted to build the community better on the ship, because the more people you have, the more you need to create experiences or ways for them to interact. But my first thought was just very simple. Don't, you know, would it be like to go with a lot of nomads at the same time and spend the winter in Brazil? And this worked really well, and then we did more things.
So my question, and I have been wondering about this question for a very long time personally. What was it like for the first time to put together an event for this many people? You had to take risks. You know, a lot of entrepreneurs, startup owners, they have to take risks, and financially and like it's psychologically, there is a pressure on you. And I've been there. I've seen you being under pressure. It was the first time. So I just wanted to know how the first time looked like from your perspective, what challenges did you have to overcome, and like how this all played out in your head.
So to be honest, I was very, very scared of this. I was not so scared about getting the people on the ship, but I was just scared that the cruise line wouldn't really allow us on board, because they were not so happy that we were coming there. Basically, I told them, like, I got in contact with the cruise line and I said to them, look, we have like 100 people. Can I get some commission? Because I thought, you know, because I basically told everyone to just book directly with the cruise line, because I just wanted to test this idea and this concept. So I didn't have any risk financially on this, but the cruise line said like, so where you know all these people from? And it's like, I don't really, I know some of them, but they are just from the internet, you know? And they were just like, okay. So basically, I was just a bit scared, you know, like, is this actually going to be cool? In that sense, like, is the cruise line going to treat us nicely? Where can we even meet up and have the venue? So basically what I did is I said, look guys, we are going to have the first meetup for us will only be in 2 days. And then I will tell you how we're going to do like a little workshop program and where it will be. So I had some time on the cruise ship to find locations where we can meet and figure out for myself, like how we actually going to do, you know, like a little program and stuff. And then they kind of liked the cruise line liked us as a group. And then they were saying like, okay, now you can sell it and make commission on this. So yeah, in general, I think that there's always an easy way as an entrepreneur where you don't need to own a co-living space to start a co-living. You never need to own the assets. Like there's always people who can help you with things. Of course, then you're not going to make as much profit, but basically there's always ways for lean startup for things to try something and to actually build something huge, even with no money or not much experience. But you have to be flexible.
Fair enough. What did you learn about yourself during that time? It was 5 years of Nomad Cruises, 10 of them. I think each one of them even bigger than the last one. What did you learn about yourself during that?
Well, the thing is why I liked all these things. Like I wanted to build this community and these things for myself, but I never had any ambition to be on the stage, right? I I never wanted to be there and be like the guy who says like, yeah, welcome everyone and whatsoever. I just wanted to have some friends that I can go travel with, right? So that was my biggest challenge in this whole thing, that I go on the stage and that I do these things because I really had zero interest in this. And I also, like, on social media, I don't do much because it just takes all my focus away from actually the work that I want to do. um, and I will do more of this a bit more in the future, but that was my biggest challenge about it. And then also, like, negotiations with cruise ship companies, which are real businesses. They don't just give you something because you like them. So when you start working with them, that was quite a huge thing, and I made some big mistakes with this as well. And I could have made a really huge mistake now with Corona. The good thing is that we didn't pay them, even though we had a cruise that was going to go in May. So we were able to refund everyone without like losing all that money, because that cruise ship company is now insolvent, and I don't think I would get this back. So there's always a huge risk. Um, yeah.
Well, I'm going to touch on that moment when you found out that the company will be insolvent in a moment. Just want to remind you guys that we are getting closer to the Q&A. So last chance for the questions. Emma, get ready. Get people ready and excited for asking questions. And yeah, I wanted to know what it was like when, first of all, when the lockdown started, when you knew there's not going to be a cruise, and then eventually when the company announced that it's going to get insolvent. What did go through your head, and what was your kind of first reaction, and what you are trying to do kind of for upcoming projects?
Yeah. So basically, just for everyone who doesn't know this, we were planning another cruise, this conference at sea for the nomads. We were planning this from Colombia to Lisbon was the route. So like really transatlantic, huge thing. People were flying in from all over the world, and they had their flights booked. And it was like in February, end of February. And I noticed that we started to get very, very few bookings and many more requests, like, how do you deal with this Corona situation? Because the Corona first breakouts happened on these ships in Japan. And first I didn't really care about it, but then I started to really research the whole thing and the situation. And I was like up all night, like figuring out, it's like, fuck, we're not going to get this ship full. People are not buying this. And like, when we go on the ship and people fly in from all over the world, how can we even ensure that none of us brings the virus? Because I had experience before on cruises how, especially when you come as a huge group, how things can spread. Like 1-2 people are sick, then a lot of other people can get sick, like with our groups. So we were always like already very careful about this, but I just thought this like playing out. And I was really scared. And then I was talking to a lawyer who's been also already on the first cruise with us. And I said, like, look here, look at the contract, I need to pay all this. like, what can we do? Is there any way we can get out? And he was like, yeah, I think we can do something there. Like, even like, just don't pay them, or just, we like, he was positive that we can get out because of this virus situation. That made me feel a little bit easier, because the cruise line then was not replying to our messages when we were saying like, hey guys, can we maybe, is there a way we can get out of our contract, and stuff. They were like not available because they had so much trouble going on their own side. And so we just decided like, okay, well, we'll just cancel it, because there's no way that we can ensure the safety of everyone and stuff. And yeah, so we canceled, and I was very relieved, to be honest, afterwards. I mean, it felt a bit like I was happy that we didn't have these payments before, that, I was kind of on the safe side. Then we just refunded everyone. Of course, we lost quite a bit because we had paid a lot of money on advertising and getting this cruise off the ground. So all this, of course, we didn't get back. But I was also very happy that, because I really didn't feel good organizing this cruise. So we got out of this, and then I had nothing to do. And,
So did you eventually have like a little turnaround moment, and you're like, okay, here's what I'm going to do, and just kind of come up with some sort of solution?
So basically, I realized, we cannot do a cruise anymore. So what else can we do? And one thing that I noticed was that, people always come on the cruise. They're super excited about the nomad life and stuff. Of course, because we have a lot of active nomads, but we also have a lot of people who are just like want to experience this a little bit. And so I wanted to create. So I already had this idea many years ago that I wanted to create something that helps people to stay, to keep in touch, because we're doing amazing community building on the cruise. And then these connections and everything kind of like starts to lose each other after 1 or 2 weeks already. So I always wanted to start some community that would be all year round. And then I started to do a lot of interviews and talk to people and see like what are their struggles and whatsoever. And basically I came up with the final idea that we are starting a work and travel club. It's a easy way to meet your friends again around the world when you travel. We are going to have like chapters like Startup Grind, not in big cities, but more in like paradise locations around the world. And we are teaching people how to like actually run a successful online business and help them to stay in touch and collaborate with each other. So I'm starting this like testing this now with the alumni, like people who have already been on the cruise. And then we will start this in this Global Nomad Network very soon. We'll do some announcements for this. So everyone who's keen to learn more about this work and travel club and hoping to learn this lifestyle and then actually meet people and have cool connections all over the world is more than welcome to be part of this.
I add to that. So I'm going to also support Johannes in that, with joining to the club. If you want to learn about that, you head to that Facebook group, Global Digital Nomad Network. There's thousands of people willing to help you with any question that you have regarding traveling, working, business, and stuff like that. And all the announcements from Johannes, you will always be on top of it in that group. Now, I've got...
when you join the group, we ask for email addresses, and you can leave it there, and then you'll get the updates as soon as we are starting this.
Yeah. So I've got lots of more questions, but there's always a Q&A that people are just like, ready to go. And I don't know how many questions we have right now. Emma, are we ready to ask some questions to Johannes? Let me see. Unmuting Emma. You there?
Oh, yeah. I was just changing my camera, so I'm sitting on the floor. I have no table in my flat, so
it's like a real nomad.
Yep, I'll jump in for a moment. So yeah, I believe, well, we've got many great questions, and because we have so many great questions, it'll be hard to get through them all, but that's why I encourage everyone upvote some of the ones you most want to see. I will also say right now, we do favor them We'll always try and get some anonymous in as well, but we do also favor them if we have a name because we love to promote people in this community. And with that in mind, I'd love to unmute you, Phil, if you're happy to jump in with any of the questions you might have.
Thanks, Johnny. And thank you, Johannes. A very good talk. Great to hear your experience. I'm also very passionate about travel and wanting to make it sort of my life out of it, right? And see how I can kind of couple the two together. I'm actually Canadian, but find myself currently in Glasgow. And so part of that is in, exactly, sort of part of that is part of my beginning on my journey as a digital nomad. As we look at one, I have a lot of questions, but I'll start with the one that has been most upvoted and the one that's most pressing on my mind is, as you're traveling, are you building a client base, or do you see sort of having a home base and that's where your work is? Because as I think about it, if you're creating business around the world, there's a lot of matters around jurisdictions, around taxation, around all that. How did you get around that, or what's any advice or tips around that matter?
So I think it's not good to, like, it's good to build your clients in one place. Also, just because like this, you can actually find them again. Of course, if you have an online business that is like very gig related and you have global clients, it's good. You can also do this, but in general, I think the easiest is if you have your clients where your home base is. Usually then you also don't have global competition, right? Because you can meet them in person. Not everyone can meet their clients in person. So that can be a nice thing, but really depends on your thing. What I think is dangerous is when you are actually traveling and meeting, you know, like you're going to Bali and then you're going to start to get clients in Bali and work for them and making videos there. So I know that this has caused some problems and that you really shouldn't do this. So, you know, like maybe like don't go and make don't try to get clients when you're like there in these countries. Get them when they're contacting you via your website or whatsoever. Of course, this is like a gray thing, but it can get you in trouble.
Yeah, I've seen that, especially, and then the other matter is exactly like finding clients and being able to work in different jurisdictions requires different visas and all that, which is quite sometimes problematic to get, right? So yeah.
Just stay where you are. I mean, like, just stay registered where you are in your home base. While you can also set up your business in other countries, but there are pros and cons for everything. Be aware of them. Like, it's not as easy or, you know, to save a lot of taxes as most people think. Will also get you in more trouble in the future. But there are ways to do this, obviously. Really depends on that, but yeah, just be careful when you travel, like trying to get clients in Bangkok if you're there or whatsoever. It's not really good. And or usually like also think about the countries where you are. Like sometimes it's much easier when you're in Glasgow to get more higher paying clients than in Thailand.
Right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
So we've got Emma ready.
Hello.
Yes.
Can everybody hear me? Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Johannes. It's been a fantastic interview, and well done, Alan, on your first interview, and congratulations on being co-director. So we have another few questions. So first one's actually anonymous, but if you ask the question and you have another question to follow up, feel free to write a message. So Johannes, do you have specific and reliable websites where you can search and find remote work? Are there any advice?
I mean, there are hundreds of websites, so I'm not really checking them all the time. Like the most well-known one is Upwork. It really depends on your profession. If you're like a programmer, there are loads of opportunities all over the world. The thing is a little bit with many of these like global sites is that they're not really so well paid. So it really depends on where you're from, like whether the salaries that are offered there are great or not better, like where you are. But the most reliable or biggest site is Upwork, and that's where, but there are hundreds. So just do a research, take your skill, like what you're good at, and then say, remote jobs, and you'll find them.
Thanks. And our next question is from another startup grinder. It's actually our chapter director over in Edinburgh. Declan, do you want to come on and ask your question? Is he vanished?
Hello.
So, yep, there you go.
Asking permission to speak, so I've just been granted. Mine's a bit of a boring, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Actually, just completely forgot my wording.
Logistical.
Yes, logistical, and there's a word which I just can't remember. Anyway, yes, it's about Wi-Fi, and I think it's everyone's pet peeve nowadays. And I was wondering, Johannes, if you had any best practices. And I'm going to cheat slightly and ask about VPNs for security as well, if that's something you have any experience with.
I never had any trouble with things getting lost or whatsoever. What I do usually is when I get to a new country that I get a mobile phone. Like I get the local SIM cards. They're usually super cheap, and you also have Wi-Fi really everywhere. There's a Wi-Fi map, right? It's like a Wi-Fi map. It's an app that you find on the App Store, and it has got millions of passwords. So wherever you are at the airport, you can just get it for free, right? You can get the internet for free. They're all saved there. They're all shown there. It's like just Google for Wi-Fi in the App Store, and then you have this. You can just download the map of the place where you're gonna go, right? So you're going to Bangkok. You check the airport. So you already have all passwords, and then you can log that in. But just get, I think a good backup is always to have mobile internet, and usually, I didn't have much trouble with the internet for the last years. Actually, last week I was in Ibiza, and there I had trouble because I wanted to do a call on the beach, and the internet was shit. But I don't have this at all anymore. So nothing really to worry about, I think. Yeah, I even checked my emails in the Serengeti in Africa, so you can do it also if you need.
Thank you. Okay, I've got another one here from Clemens. Are you here to join us?
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Ah, great. Hi. I just want to say great talk. My question is very sort of general, a lot less practical than Declan's was. Basically, I wanted to ask if there's anything you would want to, or like anything you wish you would have known when you started out that traveling nomad style, like anything you didn't think about that now sort of you could share as basic advice to someone who's just starting out?
Yes. So, I mean, I think that I was always I was really inspired by this dream, right? Like that this is like this amazing thing. And I just thought, I'm going to do this all my life and I don't want to do anything else. And, like this thing that you kind of need to have a little bit your base or your place where you also belong and where you have your home base. I would have just been to be a bit more aware of this, that this is like a really something that everyone needs. In general, yeah, so I kind of had to figure out everything by myself. And in the beginning, I jumped from location to location. Every week I was working somewhere different. And I really actually didn't really realize how much energy I spent making decisions and traveling to the next place. So I think that it's really important to know that you really need to take it slow, that this is not a travel job, maybe go to places where there are already some nomads. So this will make it a lot easier to get started and to stay motivated to get some work done, and then take it from there and build it up slowly.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, but it's, and one more thing, I think in general for everyone is try it out, right? Like, some people they really want to then do it for their whole life, or they rent out their apartment, or they sell their apartment, and then they realize it's not for them. But just go to Bali for 1 month, go to Lisbon, go to other places, try it out where they have some great community, and then see a little bit how it feels for you to do this, and then you can take it from there.
Good.
All right,
Well,
thanks.
by the way, Clemens,
Appreciate it.
where is it you're joining from right now?
Well, I am right now in sunny Austria. I was sort of forced to leave the UK just before lockdown. So yeah, fortunately not with you right now, but I'll be back.
Good man. Over to you, Emma.
Johnny's missing his friends, clearly.
Quoting his Austrian friend Arnold, "I'll be back."
Good one.
So we've got another anonymous one. So do you have a checklist or advice about the minimal things that we should check before making the decision of traveling and work? Is it money? Is it a place to stay? Is it the weather for you? Or what's your minimum requirements?
Oh, my checklist. I mean, basically, now I've been almost everywhere where I wanted to be. So there's not much bucket list destinations except Japan, where I really want to go and haven't been. And before that, so this always changed. And then before that, I was doing a lot of kite surfing. So I went to always kite places where there was great kite surfing that time of the year. I did that almost for like 4 years. I was just going to kite places. And actually, I returned a lot to go back to Cape Town and go kiting there. So minimum requirements, yeah, I mean, I think it really depends on, like, make sure that you are in a place where you can really afford nice accommodation. I don't know, like, so New York City might not be the best nomad destination if you need to spend a lot of money on your apartment and stuff. So rather go to the cheaper places where you can get a lot more for your money. And yeah, but it really depends what everyone is doing. And in general, I think when you're starting out, it's good to go to places that already have a lot of nomads, like in Thailand or in Lisbon or in Bali, for example. And then later on, once you have a little bit more experience, just go to wherever you wanted to go all your life.
Well, I guess that's given me an idea for a question for you. And you've been everywhere, but where's your favorite place been to work? And then where's the worst place because it was either too fun or you didn't get any work done, or you just wouldn't recommend it?
Well, actually, one of my favorite places where I ever worked, and also like really unique, is a small island in Venezuela. And we went there 5 years ago after the cruise. The situation there was already not very, very good, and it's not a good situation at the moment. But there was this island called Los Roques, and it's paradise. And there were just 1,000 people living there. We worked in the morning, then we hired a speedboat and we went kite surfing, like in the most beautiful places ever. And I did this with 4 friends while we were first in one other island in Venezuela, and then we went there for like 2 weeks. So that was my most unique place. And otherwise, I really do like Cape Town, which is an amazing destination because it's also in the same time zone like Europe. And yes, there is some crime. You need to be aware of these things, but it is a beautiful place that has a lot of things to offer. And yeah, then a lot of places like South America I also really like, because people really have such a good outlook on life, and they really know how to enjoy their life and their present moments. And really liked also the Philippines, which is an amazing islands as well. Not many people are going there. Like everyone goes to Thailand and Indonesia, but Philippines are incredible 7,900 islands, I think. And yeah, but I also really like Europe. In the beginning, I had never really been traveling a lot in Europe, and now I spend most of my time here. My home base is Mallorca, which is actually also one of the most beautiful islands in the world, and not just good for Germans and British who want to get drunk, but a really, really cool island apart from these two places where they go. So like lots of beautiful towns and things here. So I live here at the moment, so that's also really nice.
Thank you. Now I'm really jealous. Can't wait to get out
Okay.
off the island, out of Glasgow.
And
no,
my
thank you very
plan
much.
is to go to Scotland one day, but
Good.
because I haven't been there, so that is my number one. Of course.
We are waiting for you here. We're waiting for you here. And so just before we wrap up, couple of things. I want to check if Curtin is here. He's another digital nomad and a nomad cruiser who is going to share his perspective. Like I'll ask him a couple of questions. We'll be able to say hi to him. Just want to make sure he's on the call with us. But before that, I want to tell you that after this, we'll join together in a virtual meeting room on a platform called Remo, where we can do a little bit of networking. You can ask more questions and kind of mingle around. This is a really cool way to kind of, finish off an event. But before that happens, and which at the end we'll provide you the link for it so you'll know where to find it. And before that happens, I wanted to kind of tie in the interview with Johannes by saying thank you, first of all. It's been a pleasure. And give you a last question from me, which is, like, you told me and us that you did this because you wanted to solve problems for yourself. Now, over time, you encountered many problems that digital nomads face during their travels and work situations. So maybe, since we have plenty of entrepreneurs here and startup owners or up and coming startup owners, maybe there are some problems that you would like to them to solve, and maybe they could create a company, a startup around it that would be specifically designed for travel and work and would solve those problems for other people, including yourself and me and others who want to do it.
So I think I'm doing one of these with this work and travel club, which is the easy way to connect in many places around the world, like a smaller community. In general, I think one thing that people can really look into, like with any startup or maybe not so technological, but more like real estate wise, is the fact that now we can live anywhere we want in the world. A lot of people are not going to be living right in the city anymore, but they're living more in the nature, like they're living a little bit more outside. So like having ways to bring people together in these areas, like not in the big city, but like the people, the areas, the neighborhoods outside, where prices are a little bit cheaper when people, only just need to go to the office once a week or something. The fact that we are not basically tied to one place anymore, but can even live like half an hour in beautiful suburbs where that were not so interesting before, I think that brings a lot of opportunities for anyone who's interested in things like smart cities, or like locations, doing something remote, starting co-living places in beautiful places. Maybe you have a nice castle that you want to turn into, a co-living office or whatsoever. So I think that there's huge opportunities for this to create something and bring people together in that sense, or even just benefit from the real estate market that is now going to change, as like starting to change already. Like I read some interviews, when people in Rome, everyone starts to look for properties outside the city. So there's a big shift. Be aware of it, and can be interesting for you in the future.
And what about the up and coming industries like AI, virtual, reality, and any other?
To be honest, I don't know much about it. I know a lot about the whole nomad stuff, but I don't know too much about AI or the current startup trends. I'm like very focused on the things I'm working on. So
Awesome.
I can give good advice on that. Yeah.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, I'm going to try to see if Curtin is with us and like try to unmute him. Let me see.
I'm not sure if Curtin is with us at the moment.
He's there.
Oh, he is. Great, Curtin. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, let's take Greg up.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Oh, hello. So,
Welcome.
Curtin, welcome.
Hey, guys.
Welcome to Scotland.
Yeah, thank you.
So,
Feels good.
just to give you a quick intro, actually, Curtin, would you be able to tell people what you do and just kind of the connection of the Nomad Cruise and digital nomadism and Johannes that you have?
Yeah. So Johannes and I, we're brothers, obviously. You can tell. No, I met Johannes on Nomad Cruise 3, and I joined Cruise 3, Cruise 7, Cruise 10. So we have a few thousand friends together, the two of us. I found out about Cruise 3 when I was living in Uganda, and I was about to quit my job, and I did not know what was next. So I thought it would be nice to meet some digital nomads. I was not a nomad myself at the time, but I did move around the world to many different countries, taking new jobs. But none of them were remote. All of them were brick and mortar office jobs with the boss. So since 2016, when we met, I've been getting more and more into my own companies and my own stuff. And now I'm living in the Netherlands, based in the Netherlands. And I run my own company that I started with an investor who I met on Nomad Cruise 7. So yeah, Nomad Cruise for life.
Excellent. So what I wanted to ask you is, because we know that you've been traveling a lot to Asia or South America and many other like places. The question what I wanted to ask you about your experience is, what was the most enjoyable thing about traveling and working together? And unless it's like something that you know, it's not really appropriate to say live.
Startup Grind is I jump in. Startup Grind is about sharing the real stories, not the muted ones. If you want to share it, we can always cut out the recording. I want to hear real stories.
That's true. No, I would say I spent 5 years in China, and I worked with Startup Grind in Shenzhen, which was insane. You just had a question about AI, and oh my gosh, if you guys want to work with small startups doing crazy augmented reality, artificial intelligence, all these crazy algorithms, go to Shenzhen, China. There are hundreds and hundreds of small companies, Chinese, European, Australian, who are just doing wild stuff. And I spoke Chinese when I moved to Shenzhen because I lived in China before. And so my first encounter with Startup Grinds, there were some Google people from Shanghai, and Startup Grinds ambassador was from the Czech Republic, I believe. And we all met each other. We treated each other as friends, not contacts. We had a few drinks. We got to dancing. One thing led to another. And there's about 16 people. We woke up in Hong Kong. Somehow we had crossed the border. We didn't remember doing that. And one person was missing, a shoe. One person was missing this and that. But we woke up in time to have a call. Somebody had a call with Spain or Portugal, a business call, and they turned their video off because they weren't wearing a shirt. And they signed a deal for 20,000 units on their new startup. And I just realized that this was my new life, like you can go to a business function and then end up across a national border and then somebody's shirtless doing a call for 20,000 units and you don't know where your shoe is. And I was like, this is my life. This is business and pleasure put together.
Remember when I said we're going to delete parts of it? Like, we might take out a recording, might not. I don't know. It's up to you. But I'm going to save that personally and put it into Startup Grind community into our internal thing, because that's amazing.
Yeah. Oh,
Do
yeah.
you remember
that was the guy's name? Yeah.
Yelta? Was it Yelta or Yella?
Yeah. I don't know. I can send you his contacts. I still have
I know Yelta. If it's Yelta, if he's German, I think it might be German.
No, it's Jan. Jan is the first name.
Jan.
For sure.
Yes, Jan is. I think yes, I know exactly who you're talking about. Jan is amazing. He's very, very tall, is what Jan is.
It
But
is. He is. He is.
yeah, that's incredible. Small, small world. Anyway,
And actually, I know you guys are Glasgow, right? But there's an Edinburgh Shenzhen community. I shouldn't say community. It's an exchange, like a sister city program. And so a whole bunch of Chinese went to Edinburgh, and a bunch of Scots went to Shenzhen, and they help fund each other's startup programs and stuff. So it was really cool to see that kind of come from the grassroots up, and see the Chinese government step in. So you can really get your fingers into some funding if you go over to Asia and just meet the startup grind community and hang out with the right people once or twice. Sky's the limit.
There's some ideas. Dexter Edinburgh man. There's some ideas. Sorry, I've hijacked the interview, but I love that story so much.
No,
That's amazing.
Go for it, man. It's Curtin is awesome. Like we managed to actually we met each other. There was like a reunion Zoom call from Nomad Cruise, and it's just kind of, you know, you hit off with some people, and the Nomad Cruise people have like very similar vibe to Startup Grandpa, as I said. So it was just natural. And yeah, he's such a lovely dude as well. So there's one thing I do want to ask you, Curtin, with the traveling and working, like the challenges that you had to overcome, and maybe like things that, you know, usually stop people from doing that. If you experience those things, like what do you see there happening right now?
Yeah, I've had so many challenges. A lot of them are my own fault, and that's fine. Some of the challenges, of course, are not knowing what you're doing, right? Fake it till you make it when you're doing these startups. There's no way you can be prepared for everything. So we had a startup back in 2012 that was doing powdered metallurgy. So we were building a global supply chain of powdered metals being turned into usable, intricate metal pieces. And end user was like Bosch, right, in Germany. So, you know, you start to get on the phone and you make these contacts, and you travel to Europe, you travel to Asia, you try to set up meetings, and all of a sudden somebody expects you to have a 20-page presentation and you just have like one slide, or somebody expects you to have financials and you just have some projections for the next year, you know. And you have to be able to fail hard and somehow recover, right? And this is why I recommend having like mentors or partners or friends, or just somebody that you can kind of share the burden with, because if it's all on you, you really burn out. It's so easy to burn out because you're going to mess up the taxes, international taxes, or the finance. You're going to miss a payment to a supplier. You're going to miss an important email. You're going to mess up somehow, and it's going to hurt hard if you're not sharing it. So all of my failures in Africa, Europe, Asia, North America, they've been worse if I'm alone. So I would recommend, no matter what stage you're at, have a kind of system where you can be honest with somebody, and they can kind of yell at you, but also let you cry on their shoulder.
That's a real golden nugget there, I have to say. I knew you're going to drop something like that. It's very important. I turned to Johannes many times when I had questions. I remember that when I would ask him, like, okay, what should I do? I don't know what I'm doing. Like, honestly, I have no idea what I'm doing. And then he would tell me, usually he would tell me, be patient, be patient.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, all the time. Even this past week, we had an issue where we were getting so involved in marketing. Like, well, who's going to check this? Who's going to respond to this Facebook message? And who's going to fulfill this Instagram request? And it was like, wait a minute, where's our marketing plan? What's our marketing goal? Should we even be doing social media at this point? Are we wasting our time? Because you can spend 4 or 5 hours a day basically doing nothing that you're supposed to be doing. So it also helps to have a second person to kind of ask those important questions, like, what are we doing today? Do we need to be doing this?
Yeah, I agree with that. And as I said, like you've experienced a lot. Also, like, what would you say to people who are kind of like scared of just, you know, making the jump, apart from the mentoring and just like they're just simply not sure. They're afraid to.
Sure.
Kind of,
well, again, maybe my advice is too much, but honestly, what I do is I tell myself, what's the worst that can happen? And it comes down to like losing all your money, getting kicked out of your house, getting kicked out of the country if you're traveling. But guess what? You're not going to starve to death, right? You're smart enough to figure out some way to eat something, to get some water. You're going to survive. And that takes away so much of the fear, because like I'm 35 now. And if I imagine myself age 50 with no money, no house, no business, but if I'm alive, I know that I can build something in my 50s and my 60s. I know I can make it okay. And that means the next 15 years are not so scary anymore, because if I can make it work with nothing at age 50, I have nothing to lose at 35. And that gives you the freedom to make the right decision and not have to look through the fear. Yeah, so that's how I do it. But
no, I agree, and I have to say this is a really great kind of uplifting point to finish on, because yeah, we have nothing to lose, and everything to gain. Have some freedom, have some enjoyment, a little bit of sun.
Full disclosure, that has happened 3 times. So I was, my bank card had $0. I had about 75 cents in my pocket, and I still have student loan debts. And I was like, well, we're at 0, guys, but I bounce back every time. You have a friend to give you maybe a free meal. You have a friend's couch you can sleep on for a few days. And yeah, you bounce back. You don't starve to death. You don't die. So now we live in an age more than any time before that we have the freedom to try these crazy ideas. So we might as well do it. Like, jump on it. Be the first one in. Go. And Startup Grind community is really helpful for that, because a bunch of people have had the same exact fear as you. So just open up, reach out, find somebody, and just say, hey, I got this great idea, but I'm scared to do it. And ask for help. We'll help you out.
Absolutely. I agree. That's an amazing way to wrap up.
I think you should also ask Curtin for what is his business that he's doing now, because I see he's got
give us a plug. Give us a plug.
All right, guys. So I just happen to be wearing a shirt. Basically, I make shirts based on your tattoos. So I have a tattoo here, and then we've made the same exact image on a shirt. This one is a crappy printed version. My business does embroidery, very nice looking shirts. But this is the idea. So you have something underneath. It's called Ink Side Out, because it's like your ink is on the outside of your shirt. Novel idea. No one has this. So we're testing out the market.
I'm getting one already.
Right. I actually worked on your wolf today on your right arm. I worked on your wolf on the machine today.
So if you want to support the community and help each other, that's also a good way. I wanted to be one of the first people who gets that, and it's kind of like we do this, like Johannes comes to us and he gives his time, which we really value, appreciate. The same here, Curtin, from you. I think that's all about it's all about that giving spirit, and I think it comes back in many, many different forms. So from me, that's everything. I really appreciate you both coming, and everybody else. I know we had Sasha and we had Ale from Nomad Cruise, and there's probably a few names that I don't know. Thank you, guys. We just don't have as much time. Now, maybe, Johnny, you want to tell about Remo, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, sounds fantastic. So yeah, thank you so much everyone for making it along. As Alan just said, thank you so much, Johannes, for sharing your story, and yourself, Dredge, or Curtin, whatever you prefer to go by. I promise you weren't a plant. I didn't actually know about that Star Grind story until right now, but I've got a lot of love for it. I'm going to go speak to Jan, and I think a reunion in Hong Kong in a few years, I think it's got to be done. Let's wake up in a different country. Yeah, so a few quick shout outs to the community. We're going to be jumping across for some virtual networking on Remo. It's a great site. I'll share my screen, give you an idea of how it works for those who'd like to make it. But I'm also conscious that Zoom fatigue is very much a thing. So if you want to get off, get your dinner if you haven't already got to get it, or words, or anything else, I'm going to go grab a quick beer before jumping on. But if you want to come speak to us, if you want to speak to everyone else who can make it, hopefully Johannes and or Greg or whatever be able to join us. That'd be great. And we also have a couple of community shout outs, and we're going to go to Deck from Edinburgh for a wee shout out.
Of course, thank you, Johnny, and thank you, Johannes and Greg and everyone. I loved it. It was so nice to hear about the real stories and how it's possible. I think that's the main thing I've taken away, and I'm feeling very inspired. Might buy some new sun cream in preparation. And yeah, thank you everyone for tonight. We are back in Edinburgh, albeit virtually, at the end of August, and we'll be joined by Gavin Neat, who is a popular speaker for many reasons. So he's a champion of equality and inclusion, and he's really building some brilliant products to help out the disabled population. I believe Johnny's just posted a link in the chat, and we'll hope to see you guys then.
Yeah, can't recommend it enough. We're doing everything virtual, which means we can join from anywhere. It's very, very cool. We've also got an upcoming event that will be Wednesday, 19th in August, if you'd like to become a bigger part of this community. I'll post a link also to that. As I say, I think the Edinburgh events come up next, so definitely check them both out if it's of interest. And I want to say a massive, massive thank you and a massive shout out to all you joining us, whether you're Scottish or from further afield. I need to reiterate again and again, you're always welcome in our community. You're always welcome in Scotland. Johannes will need to join. We'll get some whiskey tasting or anything else, see some Highland cows, whatever we can do. Honestly, you're always welcome. And yeah, the last one is a few of us, I understand not everyone will, but a few of us are going to jump across to Remo now, and I'm going to post a link and leave it open. I see Alan has, there we go. There's a link a handful of times. If you want to come join us, we'll get a couple of drinks and actually discuss in a more in-person sort of manner. So hopefully see some of you guys there. All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks very much, Dal. Leave this chat open for a few more minutes to click the link if you want. But yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Ciao, ciao.